I would like to welcome you to our sixth and final session in the Trobe Asia's academic seminar series, India in Focus. My name is Beck Strading. I'm the Executive Director of La Trobe Asia. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the elders of the Wurundjeri people, who are the traditional custodians of the land upon which La Trobe University sits. And I would also like to pay respect to their people, both past and present, and extend that respect to Indigenous Australians who are watching this seminar this afternoon. I'm really thrilled to introduce our speaker for our final session in this seminar series, Dr Biju Philip, who is an adjunct lecturer at the La Trobe Business School at La Trobe University. Biju today will be talking to us about the impacts of a Sport for Development program in social inclusion in rural India and some of the opportunities and challenges of Sport for Development programs in the school setting in rural India. So throughout the seminar, please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A function, and I will come back to those questions during the Q&A period towards the end of the seminar. But for now, I'm going to hand it over to Biju to present for around 40 minutes or so. So if you can start sharing your screen, I know that you've got some slides for us, that would be terrific. Okay,
all right.
Take it away.
You can see back here. I hope so. Yeah.
Yep, can see them perfectly.
Yeah. Thank you. That was a very good introduction. I thank La Trobe Asia, Beck Starting, Diana, Matthew, number of people for inviting me to do this. This is a study I have done a couple of years back with our partner organizations in India. I worked with them, and during my talk, I will acknowledge them as well. Sport for development, it's an emerging area, mostly fully developed area, but in Indian context, what is it? I will discuss that, and what I have seen some of the opportunities and some of the challenges. So that is the basis for the discussion. So again, if you have any questions, you can add that at the end of the talk. So before we go, we have just a poll to get the participants. Can you complete this? There are 2 questions. Just where are you located? If you are in Australia, just click that. And if you are in India participating, or any other country, just tick that. And what is your area of interest? Like, are you an academic or higher education institution or government, NGO, or other? So if you can finish that quickly, that would be great. Thank you, Diana. Excellent. So 75% of people from Australia, 25% from India, and 44% from academic background, and 6% NGO, and 50% from other. Good. Thanks, Diana. Just to get a feel of it, who you are, what is your interest as well. So let me go through the objectives for today. So first, we are going to look at what is this sport for development. Any sport can call us sport for development or something different in it. So quickly, I cover that. Then where was this research done, and who were the participants? What was the sport for development program we implemented, and some of the outcomes and the challenges, and also research-based challenges, or maybe more research opportunities associated with that, then we have questions you can ask as well. So this is a kind of accepted sport for development definition. So any sport can consider as sport for development, yes, but the development aspect of sport should be clearly mentioned. In this case, it is very clear that you are utilizing sport for public health, the socialization of children, youths, and adults, or social inclusion of the disadvantaged, the economic development of regions and state, and on fostering intercultural exchange and conflict resolution. So if I put an equation for sport for development definition, clearly the sport aspect and development aspect must be there to call it sport for development. But the way I pitched this equation, sport is the primary objective, development is the secondary objective, that equals sport for development. You can have development as a primary objective, then sport as an IC. That is fine. So researchers identified this, and a number of projects identified under both categories. But there is a third group. So just do a sport program and assume development will come part of that. Yes, definitely. If you look at elite development, some of the programs you do has number of developmental objectives in it, but that is not the ultimate objective of elite development. Elite development is for competition, basically. So when you think about competition, you have to narrow down, and inclusion is not there. So sport for development, if you ask me what is the fundamental thing in sport for development, participation is what you are aiming at. As many number of people can participate, that is what we can consider as a sport for development. So that participation element should be there. But when it comes to development of sport, so this is development through sport, development of sport, lower number of people will participate, and the competition is the intention. So I want to stress that sport and development aspect, irrespective of whether development is primary or secondary, development aspect must be there to call it a sport for development program. Because scholars clearly discuss this, and there are a number of publications on it, this dichotomy and issues, and people run something and just claim or don't get results out of it. So move on with what is India's current situation with sport for development. So I would like to ask a number of people involved with NGOs and other area, and academic also here. So I thought of just giving you an idea of what is the project or practitioner's point of view or research academic point of view. Based on Svensson and Wood's study, more than 25 SFD organizations located in India. So when we say 25 SFD organization, they may have multiple projects running. So it could be number of projects, not just 25. It could be hundreds of projects in India running, SFD-based projects running in India, and it is running in different parts as well. But when you think about research or peer-reviewed publications, there are only 5 or less than 5. Shulankov, Sherry, and Rowe identified up to 2014. There are not many publications. So I just want to tell the audience that research is lacking. So this is one thing I also try to tell people, that research is needed to see whether actually the intention of SFD is really happening. So academic research is way below comparing to the project or international context. Number of Australia, the UK, Canada, the US, and a number of other countries, SFD project and research are progressing, but India's situation, yes, projects are there, but research is lagging behind. So this is the current situation with the sport for development in India. Projects, yes, but research, not many. So what was my involvement with sport for development project? Couple of us, actively involved with youth sport here in Australia. We were coaches or administrators, number of ways, and we discussed. I was the main person to start it. I'm the founding chair of Sport for All Foundation Incorporated. It's a Melbourne-based organization, but our committee members are mostly colleagues from junior sport or other areas worked together. So we basically, what Sport for All Foundation do, provide seed funding and support projects to happen. So the first project we have done in Chennai, that was with Oasis India, and doing a program for children to live around slums. And the next program was done in Odisha, and that was with Ashakiran Society. It's a hospital developing indigenous peoples, mainly focusing on indigenous people and their development. But these two programs didn't eventuate as a research program. It was just a project, Sport for Development project. But the third project, the one I done in Nilgiris, with Nilgiri Wayanad Tribal Welfare Society, that was further progressed as a proper research, and that's what I am presenting today. So where was the research location, or where is this Nilgiris? If you are not very familiar with, this is the southern tip of Western Ghats. Beautiful place. If you haven't been there, maybe I recommend you to go there when all the COVID-related issues are over and the travel is restated. Fantastic place, hillside. So this is the border of three states actually, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Karnataka. Here, this is hill area, and number of different people groups live here. So earlier, years back, before British came to India, it was mostly indigenous people lived there. Nobody else dared to go there. One reason, there were no roads. Another reason, malaria was a common issue, and non-indigenous people were not prone to it, so they couldn't go there and live there. But indigenous people, they were living there, and they survived these issues. But later, British came and built roads, and this became, Nilgiris became one of the, number one spot for tourists, especially British, to go and spend time in summer. It's a very good place. So if you make curry or eat curry, most of the spices come from here. So that was the research location. So this is the first kind of, proper research study done in Indian context outside city. So first rural project, research project, conducted. So that is another important area. Important, thing about this research project. Who were the people? We had, I classify them two sets of people. One is non-tribal, one is tribal. That is the way my research classified them. Non-tribal, we can maybe religious basis, Christian, Muslims, Hindus, or any other religion live there. You can say India, that caste system prevail in India as well. So you can, if it is a caste system, you can say non-tribal, higher caste and lower caste, Dalits and non-Dalits, both groups live there. But tribal, collectively we call one, but there are 4 groups live in this location where the study is done, Ambalamula. So they are Mulakurumba, Betagurumba, Katunayaga, and Paniya. So I brought some of the photos to show you that, they call us tribals. They're mostly for every recordical purpose, they are tribals, but they're very different. The way they eat, the basic job they do, and the way anthropologically look also different. Another interesting observation is they collectively call us tribals, but they have within this tribal group, they have caste system as well. They don't eat from each other's home, or limited interactions, or they don't marry each other. So they keep us separate 4 groups. This is very interesting to know. But my study, I look at tribal and non-tribal. So my study, the question was social inclusion. So bringing these 4 groups together itself, social inclusion can build, and I will explain how that is done through the development part of sport that earlier I discussed. So this was the group. So again, I was invited for, this study was done 24 months. So a number of times I visited this location. I lived with them, data collection or initiating the program. At least 5 times I was there. And during that time, people used to invite me for different functions, and just thought of bringing 2 functions I went. One is a tribal function, one is a non-tribal function. Non-tribal function was the wedding engagement, and tribal function was a girl's maturity. I mean, the grandpa said, my girl is getting married, so you should come. But I realized that it was a puberty part of the function. It was fantastic. So what I wanted to say is these 2 families, if you take economically, they are not very rich, but the association or affiliation very different to these 2 families. So there are no formal research in it, but Nilgiris Wayanad Tribal Welfare Society has work among the tribal people, and they have their own research and data collection. Based on that, tribal and non-tribal, there are 3 types of disparities we can see. One is social disparity. When I say social disparity, tribal people, they are considered as Hindus, but they have limited access to Hindu temple. So the way they worship is different to normal Hindus, other Hindus live there. So these functions are done separately. Economic disparity, if you're comparing to non-tribals, tribals are generally poor population. Generational poverty, they've gone through it, and clearly. Educational disparity is clearly tribals comparing to non-tribals. Education outcome are very low, and number of people completing year 10, schooling itself very low, and so mostly they go into mundane farm type of work. Farms are owned by non-tribals. So this classification accepted discrimination there. That is just to highlighting it. So this is the midst of the program I have done. So you might wonder why I am sharing this. These are some of the challenges. If any of you thinking about research in India, these are the issues you are going to face. You need a local partnership, but to build that trust with local partnership, it took some time. I still remember Nilgiri Wayanad Tribal Welfare Society, a good friend of mine, the manager asking me the earlier stages, sir, why did you come here? I don't know why did you come here. You are the best place, you have education, and why did you come to this corner to do this study? So local partnership, to build that challenge is hard. So it is for me, I pitched that way that not number of studies done in rural setup, but these are some of the challenges. The next challenge, logistic basis travel. You need to land in a closest airport, then by road, another 200 kilometers you have to travel. to reach there, mostly by car. There is no direct bus route or train or anything. So that is another challenge. As I mentioned, as I showed you, there are cultural and contextual understanding. Normally, I tell people, if you are going to do research in India or any project in India, and even if you know India, I was born in India and I was brought up in India, I tell you, I have faced a number of challenges. I didn't see these issues. I didn't read these issues. The part I came only 300 kilometers away from where I done the research, but it is completely different. So the layers of hierarchical models. So if you are not familiar, I'm not talking about caste system, not class system, not the work or economic differences. Caste is something you born into and you can't change. So there were 4 castes, then 5th caste is Dalits, then again there is Samaj, there is Jadi, number of subdivisions. So the layers and layers of cultural and contextual complexities there. So when you do a research, it is best to understand it, read it, but something still difficult to understand it. So local partnership in project and research is maybe an essential requirement if you go for a rural set of research basis. Language, the location I went, 3 language system, very interesting. Some groups speak Malayalam, another group speak Tamil, and if anybody come from anywhere else, Karnataka, another language. So this linguistic challenge also were there. But this is the good thing about these are some of the issues we can mitigate through our development aspect of sport. So that development box, you can develop it. That local partnership cover a number of things. Travel, again, you need money and time for that, but cultural and contextual understanding. When you work with local people, and if there are publications, yes, but this case, there were not many publications, so understanding, but definitely that knowledge, you can tap that, building the tacit knowledge to explicit knowledge, we can do that. Language also, when I will share that, how I mitigated. For my case, I can speak a couple of languages. That was advantageous, but language also we can do. So what was the Sport for Development program look like in our case? This is it. So it was a soccer peer coaching program. As I mentioned, we have established a partnership with Trobe University, Sport for All Foundation, and Nilagiri Wayanad Tribal Welfare Society. The study was conducted through Trobe University. I converted that into a PhD. Let me acknowledge Professor Hoy and Professor Sherry. Both of them were my main and deputy supervisors. And then what was the role of Sport for Development? They provided seed funding and supported it. I would like to thank the committee for that. And Nilagiri Wayanad Tribal Welfare Society, the manager and all the staff were very kind to do this program. They never done a program like this. So what I have done first is I had a couple of emails, and they understand the program. And later, when they done a 3 days residential soccer peer coaching program. So theoretical knowledge about soccer. So my background, I'm a soccer coach as well, junior soccer coach licensed in Australia, and athletic coach as well. So I had access and knowledge. So I have developed a manual to utilize there, and some we transcribed into Tamil. And it was good to have number of languages, but resources basis, one language we transcribed. Later, videos also we utilized. That's the way we have done. So this is a group of peer coaches I'm training up evening. First day is a program. This is the group. So on a sudden, this peer coaching program, through that you brought number of children to play there. In addition to that, on a sudden, community leaders you build through it. So these all the benefits you can do through development aspects, that knowledge transfer kind of initiatives, the leadership kind of development aspects you can build it, and responsibility part of issues. So only one person in that group is non-tribal. All others are tribal, sitting that community coaches. This was the first experience they had, and they were amazed by this. So we had in-class sessions and outdoor session. You can see the third slide. It is the outdoor session. And to explain the linguistic challenge, you can see that Nilgiri Wayanad Tribal Welfare Society, 3 languages used there for it, because these 3 type of communities will come there. So the first is Tamil, English, then Malayalam as well, just to give you that linguistic challenge as well. So transcribing, you can do through that challenges, you can mitigate that, and working with a local partner, they will that was the way recruitment happened. I visited the schools and other places to be there, to put my face and encourage the school principals to send their children. Yeah, it worked well. So this is the way it looked like. Amazing. So if you can read Tamil, you can see that 2014 we had this program, and the Sport for All Foundation banner is also there. Almost 100 over children, young, middle-aged, not many old, young and children and teenagers and some adults. So that is the group. You can see girls, boys, and some are differently able. So completely inclusive program. Anyone can do, play. That was the theme we established. That was a philosophy. Okay. 3 days camp, 2 nights residential program. But this is the way it eventuated. So boys were able to participate soccer. Girls were not able to participate soccer. This is another challenge I want you to understand and work on it if you're thinking of any project or thinking of doing research as well. So had prior playing experience, so just fine-tuning it. The all coaches trained were leaders, male leaders. There is not even a single person, female person can ready to take up the challenge to be a coach or learn, because they haven't had playing experience. This is some of the biases and the existing cultural understanding of sport. How do they play some of the challenge when you go for countries like India? But again, if you go to a city setup, you may not see this, but rural setup, this divide, you see that. This was the first day of our program. Yep, we had different programs and most of the boys participated. Then this is the beauty of sport for development. The development aspect of it. This was a residential program, food, preparation, and evening we had fantastic Bollywood dances. That was mostly girls participated. So sport for development, the development aspect of program, even if they can't participate in sport, you can use the development aspect of the sport for development program to allow some of the participants, they are differently abled or female participants in this case. That is one thing I wanted to make it clear. So how do you shape that? That is the important thing. So first and second day, this is the way it looked like. Yeah, I was concerned. We had discussion. What do we do with this? So constantly discussing with your partner. That is that I've done, but we couldn't do anything when we first initiated. But we have decided to move to schools. So we thought that may be a better idea. So we selected 4 schools in the location. Again, another complexity, understanding the location, I wanted to tell you. So similar to Australian context, public schools, private schools, but what is the GTRS and RSTC? So this is 100% tribal schools. As I mentioned before, when you come education, attainment or achievement, tribal area, it is very low. So India government has a number of initiatives, and one of those initiatives, it is everybody's right to have education. So part of that, these programs are GTRS is a residential school, 100% tribal attendance. RSTC only for indigenous or tribal people. You should be a tribal attendant. So we have done this program in 4 schools, so that we were able to bring indigenous and non-indigenous group of children. You can see private schools only 1% of tribal, the public school 21% tribal. Again, you still don't have a balance there as well. So eventually what we have done is, inspiring teachers to be part of it. Some schools, teachers were ready to take up that leadership, but private school, there were no teachers. And this is PE teacher is the only person participated with the program. Non-PE teacher never attended or done or made any initiative to involve in the project. But public school, all teachers were involved. They haven't had a PE teacher. But RSTC, we have done. We have seen some number of developments, especially the influence of the manager was a city educated, and his exposure and influence and his commitment to this program was clear. So has to happen in this type of project, and the top-down approaches should come. School management should make those decisions. Otherwise, an external party has limitation to do it. Let me make that clear as well. So we done something. We changed something. Girls participated. Well, girls can play sport. Not only soccer, I got a number of footballs as well. So they play football, handball games, and children started engaged with teachers have better connection with children. They like to play. Number of things work like that in this. Also, we were able to introduce community leaders to do programs in schools. So more community leaders involved in the programs as well. So that was another benefit we have seen as well. So we were able to achieve number of outcomes through this development aspect of it. So inclusive approach, equitable implementation of the process. So not picking the players who has existing soccer or any other sport abilities, anyone. Some of them are differently able children. So we shape the program such a way that anyone can do. Simplified the activities at initial, then make it harder and harder as well. So that's the way this project was done. So finally, yes, we were able to have a proper soccer team for boys and girls. You may think why girls don't have shoes, because the league they play, the other schools, they don't have shoes. So these girls can't have shoes. That's the reason. So this was the outcome of the project from the project point of view, if you look at. But it took a couple of years to do it. One of the project outcomes we were able to build 2 teams. Again, as a sport development researcher, my intention is participation. So don't assume that even if I said that elite development is not the intention of sport development. Sport development can build elite development. That is one of the opportunities we need to think about. So elite development, when mass participation happens, elite development will come. Again, how do you do the competition? So these RSTC was able to have two teams, build on. But again, inclusiveness, I said, number of children should have said no to part of this, elite group as well. So these are the things I wanted to share. But from a research point of view, before I go into that, let me summarize some of the opportunities, research opportunities I saw. Direct intergroup contact, as I mentioned, class-based divided context, direct intergroup contact, both indigenous, within the indigenous group and indigenous and non-indigenous group, we were able to achieve through inter-school coaching programs. So when we did inter-school coaching program, conditions like it is not school A competing with school B, we mix the teams so that there is no school competition, it is team competition. So teams are picked from different schools. So this is like school A is better or school B is better. So this is another development areas you can design. When you design sport for development, you can implement these things and reduce the competitive aspect of sport. And that will encourage facilitation, motivation, and participation as well. Amazed by the improved teacher-student social relationship. Some of the teachers talk about this, especially that indigenous tribal schools, there is potential for activity-based learning, and further research is needed in this area. As I mentioned, community coaches built through this program were able to participate in schools. So better school and community relationship built through that. And some of the community leaders are highly educated people. So that was useful for the school as well. So that relationship built through this. And I was echoing that clearly, inclusive participation, irrespective of gender, ability, or caste, you can participate. This was amazing opportunity, and we saw that as well. I mentioned before local partnership, travel, cultural, contextual understanding, language, female coaches, finding female coaches. These are a number of challenges, but you can mitigate this through the development aspect of, sport for development, that one of the arms of it. So you should think through, and maybe, in our case, it was an action research methodology. So we implemented something, then take data and improved it again, implemented, took data and improved again. That's the way we have gone. So we were able to mitigate these strategies, but I wanted to make it clear, this is a real challenge and real opportunity. This is what I would like to take you home, okay? The cultural understanding, what is the purpose of a school, is a question. While I was spending 24 months with dealing with children, school management, and a number of teachers, the question came to me, what is the purpose of a school in this Indian rural context? The pure focus on academic outcome, okay? If you play sport, that is just for competition and winning. There is no other attitude. There is no use of sport for developmental aspect. So this may be one of the differences we can see Australian primary schools and Indian primary school in a rural context where I study. What is inclusive sport participation and what is its benefits? This is a clear question we need to debate. We need to start with not just children, it is with the policymakers, a top-down approach. We need to do it. So there are a number of opportunities for research on this, because what exactly inclusive sport participation mean? So I showed you the definition earlier, and sport for development means sport and the development aspect of it, and it can deliver definitely physical health. We know that movement will lead to physical health. The same way, number of research clearly identified that sport can give movement and a development aspect, or just movement alone can lead to mental health as well. But social health, what type of social health, and whether it is academic outcome, whether it is personality outcome, it's leadership. In our case, it was a peer coaching program, leadership opportunities, number of social benefits we can achieve through this as well. And then the role of sport in children's development, thinking about and clearly discussing this from the policymakers, and that top-down approach is what I see lagging a bit in the context I have done the research. That is a summary of the research. So there are a number of opportunities for here in this space, that physical, mental, and social. In a university context, when we talk about this, is all spread across number of disciplines. So collaborative research, local partnerships, and ideas, building on it, and doing research in different areas, not just one place. As I mentioned, sport for development research is not still in infancy in India. So these are some of the things we can do. So let me stop there. I'm 4 minutes early, but you can ask questions.
Oh, thank you so much. That was so interesting. I see we have one question in the Q&A, hoping we can get a few more in there. But I have a question. I was particularly fascinated to hear about the challenges around gender and around participation, and how the sort of project had to evolve, I guess, to manage some of the what you described as gender biases. So I'm wondering, did you see a kind of change in attitudes around things like not just gender, but also working or playing with people that are differently abled? Did you see any kind of sense that the program was having a broader impact on people's sort of attitudes or values? And if so, like how is it possible from a kind of research perspective to try to measure the influence that these sorts of programs might have on how people view things like gender or disability?
Thanks for that question, Beck. It is very interesting. My primary question was not gender, but inclusiveness was there. So I was observing on it. I had 4 schools, and definitely private school was not able to have a girls' team. But interestingly, the indigenous school was able to. There may be number of reasons for that. One thing I touched already, the top-down approach and manager's influence, and how he viewed that. So that policymakers or top-down or school leadership's initiative is very important in this area. But another observation, it is just an observation, it is not a research as conclusive. What I observe is indigenous people, females are powerful. That I saw that because number of teachers, female teachers, were able to do programs or coaching similar to the male teachers they involved as well. Or the girls and boys involved in the program, I've been there 3 or 4 times, lived with them in the sense my room is just over 50 meters away from where kids play and all. And I used to eat with them and play or run programs. Never seen any, gender-related issues in that context. But in the private school, that is mostly attended by non-tribal people, children, girls were interested to play, but somehow it didn't facilitate as well. So, yeah, that is the observation I would like to give you. But again, it's which part of India you go. That is the way. Cities may not have that gender bias a lot, but the way I saw here, indigenous, schools or the schools, special schools were able to have soccer teams for girls, and they have a soccer league now, actually. Um, I mean, it's a good question. Maybe ask again why that happened, why the other schools didn't do it. Yeah. Did I answer your question, Beck, or you?
Well, yeah, it's really interesting. I think because if we think about things like the sustainability, the sustainable development goals from the UN, a lot of them intersect with things like gender and women's empowerment. So it seems like generating a girls' soccer team is connected in with some of those other development goals that are important. But it's really fascinating stuff. And I see we have a question in the Q&A box.
I just opened that. Yeah, from Shangi is one of my students. Thanks for that first sentence, Shangi. Your question.
One of your former students has asked the question. I might just read it out so that all of our audience members can hear what the question is. But it's regarding people's behaviour. Considering tribal populations often lack modern means of education, how did the adults and guardians of teachers react to the concept of using sport rather than technology or practical education as a means of development? Great question.
Yeah. Shanki, that this is a thing. These areas are still not manipulated the way I went. So technology, influence of technology, I didn't see any iPhone children using or mobile phones children using. I don't know whether that is part of the school's decision or they can't afford it. So that influence is still to come there. I didn't see any iPad or any of those gadgets, technology-based gadgets there. But indigenous people movement is very important for them. Again, one thing I didn't say, thanks for asking this question. When I said indigenous people, if you are comparing with Australia, that is not the case. Most of them either living in the forest or fringes of forest. Okay, so they have to walk or cycle or other commuting means to come to school. So this is not like Melbourne. It is not like Geelong. It is not even like some part of Northern Territory, if you think about very remote type of areas. But this is more forest or forest fringes. So other influences have very limited because connectivity as well an issue. And also another thing I wanted to say, the issues with, that is an issue for soccer as well. Monsoon is very heavy from June to a couple of months. And it is very difficult to play outside as well. So so that time normally connectivity don't come. So yeah, technology influence is lower comparably. But if your question is related to caste-based, how that biases of guardians or teenagers, this is. I didn't look into it part of my research because RSTC was a residential school. Also, another tribal school also was a residential school. And when I done it, private school, number of people were able to say yes to it. But I wish I can meet those parents and have a chat about it or do a research. These are some research, still, waiting. Or I wanted to, any of you listening, maybe bring it up and as well. So that was not very clear, but when I asked this question to one of the tribal elder that why can't you train non-tribals, he said, no sir, it won't work. So I was a bit thoughtful about it. Why? Then I asked another tribal elder, and he said, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I can do that. So is it individual, preference, or it is a community preference? But I used to hear from the manager that Biju, if non-tribals involve, tribals will move away. So I'm not painting a picture that it's all perfect. It is not. It's not a perfect world. Bias is there. Generational poverty and racial bias was there, and it is there. But some are accepted. That's what I see. Or when you look from outside, yeah, you can see that. But again, my focus was not that exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we still have some time for some questions, so please feel free. We have another question. Well, thank you from Shanky as well. So that might be just to add on to what you were talking about there, Biju, but another question about the involvement of policymakers. We see leaders of India have been given an extensive focus on the importance of sports. How does that translate to reality on the ground, and what are the reasons for that? Another great question.
Yeah. Shangi, you come from India. I know that. So I come from India. Very clearly, India is a mini Europe. So based on state, language is different, culture is different, food habits are different, religion is mostly different as well. So this is the layers of India. So we can't have a blanket approach top down. So we have to have number of research coming. So if we want to do a program in Ambalamula, we need to do research there. We can't exactly take that and utilize in another place. We need to see how that reflects in other places. So world-class research is done in these areas with the Nobel Prize winners from India. And that's some of the evidence as well. You have to do the different research to understand different places. So maybe that's what I said. Tribal itself, we collectively call them, but they are different. So maybe one tribal group, what happens? So previous my example also, when I asked one person, he said, no, I can't train in a non-indigenous person. But another tribal I asked, he said, I'm okay with that. So we can't have a blanket approach for India. Any researchers listening, that is my strong comment. You need to understand India, otherwise it is like blind men went to see an elephant. You get different results and you don't apply that in different contexts, So there are a number of initiatives. Again, that's what I pitched earlier. What is sport for development? Sport is not sport for development. You need to have the development aspect into sport program, then only you can call it sport for development. This is very clearly researchers and scholars discuss this, and the outcomes are there on that. Yeah, that is very good that top-down approaches are coming, but it is what we need is working with the researchers and practitioners together to bring this out and discuss this as well. Yeah, I hope I answered your question, Shani.
Yeah, I've got a question just to follow up on that. There's, very clearly coming across the importance of cultural and contextual understanding. And so I was thinking, I was wondering about sport for development models and how they need to be adjusted across different cultural and social contexts. So what are the key ways in which programs might change across different cultural contexts? And also, just to add to that as well, how much kind of local ownership is there of these programs, and how much does that matter for their legitimacy or whether they continue on?
Yeah, this is Indian case. There is not a lot. That's why I brought the research approach into it. That less than 5 peer-reviewed publications. What can you do with that? You know what I mean? So more research initiatives has to happen. And we are from Australia. It is good to compare Australia and India. And some of the outcomes I mentioned, it may be applicable for indigenous people here as well. If you generally take, you can see the best sport people come from indigenous background here. So movement is one thing they all like, and the way they move is very different when you watch AFL football or any other football. So yeah, maybe that is one area we have to think a bit more and do a bit more research. So years to come and more research and initiative has to happen. Yeah, I hope Australia India Institute, Trobe Asia and all put some of the efforts to do that. That's my
Well, I'm actually wondering about that because it seems like there might be good opportunities for international cooperation or for bilateral relations between India and Australia to pay more attention to sport for development, given that sport, particularly cricket, is often used as a kind of a token for explaining Australia and India's connection or shared kind of cultural identity.
Yeah, people used to ask me why not cricket, why soccer. It's very interesting area. This is again lack of understanding of India. When I was small, some of the states haven't had any representation in Indian team or Indian cricket. So even state basis, our sports are divided as well. For example, Kerala, Goa, Bengal, it's mostly soccer kind of playing groups generationally. It's changed a lot. Cricket influence is everywhere. Cricket is not the national sport in India. Hockey is the national sport. When commentators here also say this is the only sport they play, it is incorrect. You know, this is some of the, do you know India very well? That is the question when I hear this kind of comments I ask. Prakash Padukone got World Badminton Championship when I was a small kid. You know what I mean? So badminton was much more powerful. And now, irrespective of any sport, India's record in elite development is coming up very well as well. But to answer your question, Beck, I haven't even seen a single kid in these 2 years doing a cricket action, indigenous group. Indigenous people, their identity is soccer, football. I don't know why. They relate with soccer. There is not even a single kid done an action. I was discussing this with the manager a number of times as well. Then he told me Malabar is the heart of soccer in that our region, and this is part of Malabar. And we had that discussion. So again, understanding India is one thing we need as a research, as a collective way, and collaborative research is that what I do, and partners, local partners, and as you said, international collaboration. It is good ideas, yeah, thinking, and how much we know and what we know before we do a research, or because very important to have primary research, secondary research. Yes, we can do this, but there are a lot of challenges with primary research as well.
Yeah, and COVID's making that kind of research even more difficult.
Yeah, but we have established the connections, and I'm sure some of the participants I saw earlier, the partners are here logged in and they are listening to it. The trust is there. We built it. Trobe already built that connection. We can do research, and I'm interested to talk to you as well. So I don't think they will ask anymore this question. Why do you want to come here to do research? That was faded away after 6 months to 1 year. He never asked me that question, but I heard that question a number of times in the first half of the research.
That's why relationship building is so important. And we at Trobe Asia look forward to working with you in the future, hopefully, to keep these the programs running and the partnerships running. And you make a lot of really important points there. There's criticism of Australia in particular, overemphasizing the 3 C's of cricket, curry and Commonwealth when it comes to its bilateral relationship with India. But we do need to do a lot more on understanding India, and that includes in sport as well as in a host of other areas. So you have really enlightened us today. We are reaching 3 p.m. So I would like to thank you again, Biju. That was really interesting and very insightful. It's also really just great to hear about an action research project where you have that real iterative focus on understanding the problem and trying to come up with solutions to solve those challenges, or to try and improve things as you go along the research. So really terrific to hear about your research journey. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, but In the meantime, please keep an eye out on our emails or follow us on Twitter at the Trobe Asia, where you will find more information about our events as they become available. But I would like to thank you, Biju, once again for giving your time and your expertise. And thank you also to our audience for joining us today.
Thanks, Beck. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the participants as well. Yes.